Hey everyone, so majority of you voted to do yes to do an eyebrow tutorial, so that's what we're gonna do tonight. So I'm gonna make this as simple and straightforward as possible. So we're gonna do a good brow and a not so great brow. What I like to do is I like to start by brushing my brows up, and I'm using my MAC eyebrow styler, and the color is spiked, like you spike a volleyball, spiked. By brushing up my brows just to see the shape of what I'm working with, and at this point, if I felt like I needed to like trim anything down, then I would. So the eyebrow styler has a spoolie that comes on the end, and then this is the point that you're working with. It's a pretty narrow point. So what I like to do is I like to start about 1/4 of the way into the brow. So I'm moving backwards. So I'm just going to feather the pencil underneath my brow. When I say feather, just that stroking motion, and I'm not lifting up. If you're going like this, that's not what you want. You're kind of coloring. You're not really like finessing the brow. You're not trying to like create a shape. We don't want to color. We want to feather. So then when I get to the front, I go back to the starting point, and then I like to keep feathering, but this time I call this like more of a stroke, because I feel like I'm stroking through my hairs. So I start at the same point in the beginning and just flow through the hairs until I can connect the tail. So I prefer to do it this way, where I'm like kind of flowing through the hairs instead of drawing in the top like that. Because as you can see, when you go straight into the top, you're literally drawing in the top part of your brow. You're drawing your arch. So this one already looks a little bit thicker, a little bit bigger. You're gonna have to do a lot more blending and concealing to kind of correct this brow, as opposed to this one, when we kind of just flow through it, it looks softer and a little bit more natural. Another way that you can kind of see how what your brow is doing is if you kind of comb down the brow hairs like this, you don't see like a lot of product like all through the top of here. There's not a lot of product all through the top of there. You want your brow to be the most opaque or darkest towards the tail and into the arch. Here, that's all product. You can see the line of like demarcation. Like I know that I shaped that. So this is this brow, and then this is this brow. So moving on, I like to kind of start back, but this time I'm going to make my upward motions. I'm stroking upwards, and I prefer to stroke upwards because I feel like it looks more like natural to what it is I'm doing, to like the brow that I'm trying to create. If you kind of go in like this, that brow, you can see just with the general direction, this brow is clearly going left to right. I colored that in, like I'm just going like this. But this brow has a little bit more like fluid motion to it. If I brush my hairs up just to kind of see what I'm working with like this brow you can get away with no concealer and just go. There's not a lot of product all throughout the brow. It's pretty even. And when I brush it up, you can tell the brow hairs are kind of going in the same motion. I put the product in the motion I want my brow hairs to go. So when I was outlining on the bottom, I wanted it to mimic that nice defined kind of brow where, you know, your arch is high and your tail is like sleek, if that makes sense. And then when I get to the front and I make my upward motions, I'm mimicking the idea of that ombre brow, those brow hairs, that are going upwards. This one, you can kind of see there's product. It's not super even. Right here, there's product that needs to be filled, like right there and right here. And then you can also tell that you can see where it starts and stops. This one just all kind of looks like a gradient of hair. You can see where it starts and stops. And then you can also tell that it's going side to side instead of with the hair kind of going back. So moving on. So again, this brow, you can get away with no concealer. Just you filled your brow, you can go. This one we might have to do a little bit more work with. Whatever brow you're most comfortable with. I started here. I prefer this, and that's fine. But if you want to do a little bit more, you want your brow to be more defined, that's when the concealer trick comes in handy. So I'm just going to use my dark concealer palette from MAC Cosmetics, and I'm taking the shade closest to my skin tone that looks most natural. So I'm going to take NC50, which is this guy right here, and I'm taking a flat concealer brush from Sonia Kashuk because I can't find my 212. And I like to start kind of in the center and I'm working my way slowly back. Like so. Now, the reason why I don't start up front is because when you start straight up front, it's a lot harder to blend out the brow. It's a lot harder to blend the concealer. So if I start in the middle and notice that I'm using the flattest part of the concealer brush. It's a synthetic hair brush, so the product gets really like packed in there, and I'm using the flattest part of it, and it's helping me kind of blend the product a lot better than if I was just to go in like this at the very front of the brow, just using the tip like that. You can kind of see where the concealer is. Now, I'm just gonna gently blend this out into the rest of what I just did. So this is like a super soft carved out brow. Now, realistically, if you're going to, finish doing your eyeshadow, you would bring down your concealer. If not, you would still and cover your whole eye. If not, you're just gonna bring it down and blend it the way I just did. But not starting at the very beginning is definitely gonna help blend everything together. And then when I got to the front, I just kind of gently brushed it out instead of taking concealer and carving so harshly. So for this brow, I don't like to have my brows super sculpted at the top. If anything, I might take some foundation and just gently carve it towards the front, but I don't like to have my brows super carved at the top. This brow in order to make it match this one, it might need to be carved a little bit more or structured a little bit more. So even with me trying to make them as even as possible, I can still tell the difference between this brow and this brow. This brow, the direction is going side by side, while this brow, the direction is more gradient, it's going up. And that's the look that ideally we want to go for. This brow has a more defined tail, so this one I have to do the same too. Like so. So either brow, like once this brow is cleaned up, it doesn't look as like harsh. I can still kind of tell that it's a little bit harsh. So I would probably feel better if I like went in and pushed some of the product around so it didn't look so dark. But even with that, as you see right there, starting your brows going this way, this close up front is gone. So this is my ideal brow, and I think it's really gently sculpted. It's not like super harsh. It looks elegant. It looks like you can just throw this on and just go. It doesn't have a lot of effort put into it. This one takes a little bit more effort because of the way that I approached it. I kind of colored it. I didn't finesse it. And I think that's the difference between, you know, a nice, well structured brow and one that is a little bit rougher. So I hope that helped. If you have any questions, leave me a comment or DM me, whatever you want to do. I appreciate you guys watching me, and I will see you soon.